gonna take the slant down towards technology that Trevor initiated, but I hope that in the end we will move up again to some artistic applications. So I will talk about how using corpora of sound and speech can be used for sound production, composition, and also art projects further than just pure music. And all this started with my PhD thesis in 1999, last millennium even, when I started out just asking this question. So concatenative synthesis for speech at that point was showing to be really the prevalent method to synthesize speech. Like, using a large corpus, lots of recordings of real speech, and just and each little word would have been annotated with what is said and the phoneme and so on, and then to synthesize you just concatenate pieces of real speech together, and even long units or like parts of phrases, and that today actually gives us very natural speech synthesizers. And my question was for that PhD is, can that idea, that method, be applied to musical sound, and to do musical concatenative speech synthesis, sound synthesis, sorry. And so I wrote this system that was it was a single user system, so only I could use it. And in the end I also did some speech related examples with it, so let's show that one. Because of course for music you also need descriptors. You also need to annotate all these bits of sounds with musical parameters, pitch and brilliance and so on. And so a little example here would be to just give some weird contours of brilliance and loudness and pitch, and try to recreate that contour, but not by synthesizing, but just by picking bits of sounds from your large corpus, in this case of speech. And that would sound so you have this weird pitch wobbling, and the rest of the stuff would follow. But it can get applied to cross synthesis if you take some recording that gives you these contours of parameters that you want to realize in the end. For example, if you take a little phrase of speech, this.
Our capacity to change the world increases.
And so that would be segmented and analyzed, and the resulting contours of pitch and loudness, and especially the rhythm. Now we want to realize it by concatenating sounds of a corpus of, here in this case, violin. And then you get the typical speech melody stuff, but fully automatic. And so, yeah, that was nice, got my PhD, but only when I started to do this in one free summer, when I started to do this in real time, then it really just started to take off and be taken up by musicians and composers. And doing corpus-based synthesis in real time, well, actually it's probably better just to show it. And then lots of the things will get clearer. So of course I will be using speech corpora for the sake of this symposium. Okay, so let's throw in some recordings in various languages. Now what you see, every dot would be one segment of speech, and it's it will be laid out according to the sound descriptors, which is in this case brilliance from left to right and harmonicity from bottom to top. And so at the extreme points, of course, you get fricative, and in the harmonics, in the harmonic edge of the display, you will find all the vowels. Indefinite and little noisy fragments of the speech. And then the nice thing is that the corpora can become rather large and varied. And can show rather interesting moments when you start to mix it with other sounds. Okay, so now okay, to recapitulate what you just saw. So really the important part here is the corpus, which is a collection of sounds that have been split into little segments, and each segment is annotated by a number of sound descriptors. And these descriptors mainly describe the timbre of the sound, pitch, spectral balances, and so on. But that can also be metadata that comes from outside. And of course, for speech, that metadata would be the information which phoneme it is, which syllable, what word it belongs to, where in the phrase it would be, if it is male, female, children's speech, or robot speech, or whatever. And later I will show another example where we have part of that information at least. So that's the corpus. And then synthesis here is concatenative, or actually it's really granular, because there can be overlap going on. But as soon as you just concatenate, it means you chain units, then you get closer to keeping at least a flow of speech or sound. And the most important part is that the choice of the grains is taking place by giving a kind of target value of the descriptors you want to have. Here in the real-time example, it is by moving the mouse, but of course that can be then can either be written, composed, given interactively, also by gestural controllers or 3D tracking or whatever. And then playing music becomes actually an exploration of that multidimensional corpus of sounds. So if you play or compose, you navigate in n, or maybe a subset of n dimensions in the mathematical space of sound descriptors. And why do we do this? Because we can use real sound. We don't need to synthesize sounds with all the shortcomings, but we can still make use of the nuances of the sounds, because we have this control of what sound we pick by perceptually meaningful descriptors. We don't have to tweak synthesis parameters, but we really say, well, we want this thing to go from very muffled to very brilliant or so. So the description becomes rather high level. And we have this explorative thing, and as soon as you use gestural controllers, like I do for my live work, then it really becomes a musical instrument. And you immediately saw the link to granular synthesis. So you can think of corpus-based concatenative synthesis as a content-aware granular synthesis, because you do not choose what grain to play just by position in a sound file, but you choose it by its content, by what you want to hear. And actually, so I can also, in Katat, I can also use the time axis as one of the descriptors. So for example, like this. Now I have all the grains from left to right. Maybe let's use the sound file here. Now I have several sound files, all the grains, and now we're back in. Now we're back in classic granular synthesis. And well, of course you have all the synthesis parameters, envelope and pitching and so on. Okay. You can also use this in a live context. I have just a very old example, and it's not speech but music. But in live, I start off with a completely empty corpus, and it will get filled up by everything that happens during the live performance. And here we also have a 3D visualization of the corpus as it fills up. So each object is one note, and it's plotted according to its descriptors and the shape and color and size of these things. And so as soon as a few sounds are there, you can start to browse again in that corpus of sounds and start to play back in a completely different order the phrases of what the musician played. And so it goes on, it goes on, it goes on. The musician can also draw that world of sound objects. Yeah, that has a nice side effect, that there's a very interesting coupling going on between the acoustic musician and the electronic musician, because we don't exchange kind of ideas or phrases, but we really exchange sound. So we really build up that kind of common instrument. We build up that sound space, which is the actual instrument that is played. You know, the acoustic musician nourishes it, and I feed off from it. So it's kind of really a symbiotic thing. Okay. So you can now more back to the technical side. That software I'm using to do corpus-based synthesis in real time is available. It's free software. If you're really adventurous, you can use it in Macs in a very, very modular way, where you can really tweak everything. If you're less adventurous, you can use that standalone for Mac that I was just showing. And if you're moderately adventurous and creative and you want to build stuff easily, then you can use the new technical basis of this Qatart system. It's based on the Mubu library for Maximus P, which is very well integrated. And while we're on the technical side, within Mubu you also get a syllable segmentation analysis module. The analysis stuff is called Pipo. We really like funny names. The next system will be called Mimo. Stay tuned for it. And that's based on a syllable segmentation research by Nicolas Aubin. So that's the new Qatart based on Mubu. And it has nice visualizations and so on. And if I throw a bit of speech inside, algorithm will kick in. It is
increase.
it is not really real time. It needs to wait for the end of a phrase to start segmenting syllables, because it does a viterbi and so on.
Our capacity to change the world increases.
And so it's pretty good. And you can additionally segment in subsyllables also, like trying to find out the onset and the coda. That was what Trevor referred to as the part where the syllable is strong. It's called the coda. So that should be on the kind of perceptual onset of the syllable. That's the vocal part, the voice part of the syllable.
Change the world increases.
Okay, but enough technology. Maybe I will load up a little corpus with speech and speech-related annotations. It was done quite some time ago. And I'll play just a little bit with that. However, usually I use gestural controllers like these, and so playing this just with the mouse is like playing violin with boxing gloves. But I'll try to and the nice thing is that just by having so let's display the labels. Is this visible at all? Okay, this is a corpus of speech that was segmented by alignment. So we knew the phrases that were said. We had a phonetic transcription, and so by alignment, we can really precisely segment the phonemes. And you also get the varying duration. So okay, mini performance of what is possible when you have meaningful segmentation and description. Okay, how are we for time? Okay. You have one minute for one extra thing. So either way, you'll have a choice. Either something about audio mosaicing, generating sounds from speech, either an art project about generating music from news events about non-lethal conflicts in the world, or something about using table drumming to articulate corpora of speech or other sounds. So who's for audio mosaicing? Who's for the art project about world events? Who's for table drumming and articulating? Okay, cool. So that's a project I did with artist Frank Leibowitzi called Panda. And it starts out with kind of the news briefs from Reuters that are encoded into a certain encoded according to a certain number of event descriptors. And actually I will also at the same time play a little bit of the outcome of this, so you get used to it. So the world events, in the end they look like this. Each line is one event, and they're encoded as the date, where this happened, who did what to whom, the event code, what happens, like protesting. So these are all non-lethal. So before it gets, these are like strikes, protesting, and so on. Where it happens, and so on and so on. And we devised a system how this table of event codes are converted into a musical score, an audio score. That's actually what you hear right now. So each column would generate a note. And so one event would generate a short sequence of notes. And notes in this sense is one segment out of a corpus we devised of all the vowels, a few consonants, so ma, mi, mi, mo, mu, different lengths, different like stable, moving up, moving down, with vibrato, without, and also some non-voiced sounds in there. And so what you hear, of course, if we encode anything from the same date, then every phrase will start with the same vowel. If we encode something that goes on, everything in Syria, which was here, this example actually, then at some point, when you come to the column of place, it will have the same sound. So you have these recurring elements. But anyway, so that's the score, and that is to be sung by untrained musicians. They will just hear it and they will just try to sing it again. And then what they sing will be will be kind of analyzed according to the score. So we will try to find back what was sung, regenerate from that the event code that corresponds to, and then in a workshop setting rewrite the events that were sung. And of course, because every part in that chain is slightly lossy and imprecise, this will probably write a different news report, and something that happened in Syria will suddenly happen in Norway or so. And so by singing that choir of untrained musicians, they will kind of change the history of the world and rewrite a different possible history of the world. Okay, that's it.